Well, it's a bit of a shame really. I couldn't get that door to work. I'm sure that if I put more time, more hours into it, I would eventually get there. But I have to ask myself, the simple question is how much longer is this thing going to be in the back garden when I am actually quite desperate to get this thing out to the front. So with that in mind, I am simply not going to bother with the door. I'm going to try and keep myself as busy as I can with it, but I'm going to, how can I put it? We want this finished. It's time this was out the front. It's time this was on the road. Right, let's get into this. Okay, so we need to establish a distance from that point to this point so the wall goes in. Now I was going to put wood all the way around this. I'm wondering if I should just skip the idea of wood altogether. Put the wooden doors in that we got. Obviously refurb them, as you do. But I'm thinking maybe just skip the wooden surrounds because it's going to be more aggro than it's worth. I don't know, we'll see where we end up. I do need something solid. This is going to get the crap kicked out of it on an off-road course for definite. I want to follow that contour down over there for definite. So I'm going to mark out a line along there so I can establish a distance between that point and that point as a height. So I can set this height, because as you know, we spoke about this in the last video, that line, I don't think that looked right. I think that needs to go up higher, a lot higher. I'm thinking even on the Morris Minor itself it does go down, and you've got to bear in mind also that I am running that line off this point and all of that's going anyway, so really that would change direction once we get to here. Note to self to edit this out if it fails to work, always a crazy idea. Now do have this old VW bumper, and I'm looking at the shape of that and I'm thinking, what are the chances of that being a very similar or close enough shape to that? It's that top edge that has to be as close to that as possible, and the reason for that is that needs to be a little bit more substantial at the top than what it actually is. That's really quite lame. It's just looking at it thinking to myself, you know what, that's going to get me into trouble later. So I was looking for something to go up there that's relatively thick. I happen to have two of these and they're both slightly different in shape, so I'm thinking plasma cut down the middle, all the way down the middle, and take it in the shed, hammer out all the dents, and then see if I can't get it so it can be welded in on top. But as I said, it's such a radical, stupid idea that it might actually work. You just never know. I have to think outside the box sometimes. I mean, that really is thinking outside the box. It took me a long while to figure this out. But I think with I've taken the lines off that side over there, transferred them in over to here. I've just got to trim this piece up. As you can see, this is the inner frame for the doors, and it suddenly dawned on me that instead of raising the bottom up even higher, we might as well try and make something to go over the top which peaks, as we spoke about earlier. So that's what this extra is all about. That line there represents that line that I chopped out, or equally that one over there. It's a bit of a funny old shape this, but that's kind of the way it came out. So we're going to get, tomorrow we'll do all of this. Can't be doing it tonight, it's too noisy now. But we'll chop up some of that to get some flat plate, which I haven't got any. And we're just literally going to weld that straight on that piece of steel going down in that shape. And then the offcut from the side, we're then going to wind that around the outside so I've got something to join to. Right, template. Goes in, thus, sits on top, welds in over the top of that when I get the steel cut, kind of how it's going. And this is what I've cooked up so far. So the cardboard template's been made. I've now cut with the plasma cutter and ground flat. This is her piece, which is curved, which actually does not go against what I'm doing because that's curved. So we will squash that down, tack weld that on, and then we'll put a few stitch welds in, putting it where I think it needs to go. We'll do that to both sides, and then we've got to figure out the roofy part. Right, well there's the other one. No, it's not been cut very well on that edge, but I am going to be putting some angle in there anyway. I'm not overly bothered by that. Sure, there was a few laughing at me when I suggested using a Volkswagen Beetle bumper, but actually if I can pull it off, this might come out quite good. The edges there and on there are pretty close to what they need to be. It's just the centre part is too curved. It needs to flatten out a little bit. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to achieve this at the moment. Question is, right, that's where we're at so far. I've welded it from the inside because that's an area where it's all going to be hidden, and I don't have to grind the welds down where I lose all the strength. You can see that I have penetrated through, and blown in places because this stuff is really thin. It seems to be okay at the moment. A few issues going to be around here because of the fact that I haven't got it to sit smack on. But before I weld that up, I want to actually cut that dead straight and just see how accurate I have actually got that. I'm hoping both halves are equal. I've tried my hardest to get it as such. I think it is. It looks okay visually. Yesterday I was getting extremely frustrated with this because I've had to really think hard about how this is all going together, and at one point I did think to myself, maybe these wooden doors on the back are not really right for what I'm doing, and maybe I should just chuck them away and go with a straight steel panel, build a new set of doors up, or a swing up door like a hatch, and we'll go with that idea. That has crossed my mind several times, but no, we've come this far. I'll stick to what we were going to do. My biggest problem was the cost of wood. Ash in this country, with that disease that's been going around, has made it a little expensive. I'm not keen on the idea of actually importing it because that's how ash dieback came to the country, with woods being imported in. Because there was such a big demand for ash in the 70s and the 80s. So it would have to be imported ash, unfortunately, if I want to get it cheap enough. Somebody suggested to me that I use some of these wooden pallets. Some of the wooden pallets are made of hardwood and they've got quite a pretty grain to them. But the thing is, I don't want the pretty grain. I want plain Jane. That's what I'm after. With ash, you get plain Jane. What you see is what you get, and that's kind of what I want. I want an underwhelming woodwork on there, and I'm not even planning on staining it. I'm just going to straight lacquer it once I've sanded it all down. Right, so we've ground it back. Yeah, pleased with that. We'll when we weld it in position, we can then fill up and gain some extra shape, because we did lose it here a little bit. There was so much heat put in there that it bashed itself in a bit. Same on the other side here, so we lost it there a little bit, but we got the curve we spoke about. Just want sweeping around with some filler. So what I'm going to do, I'll primer it up first. I will. I'll primer it up first, try and get rid of as much rust as I can on the rest of it. I won't be doing all of that lot, but I will try and get that, because we don't want that to go rusty again. And I think the sanding process will happen once the wood is in place, because then I can bring the wood and blend it into the metal at the same time with sanders and belt sanders and all sorts of sanders and swearing and cursing. You know how it goes. So yeah, piece of metal will go in on that lip there. I lost it a bit there, I'm afraid. I need to hammer that down. But when I hammered it earlier on, I managed to crack where the welding was. Don't know why it did it, but it just did. Again, filler along there. Couldn't really grind much of that back. Got to shape it again. But that, I think, is a lot tidier than having it blunt like it is at the moment on the truck. I prefer that. I do actually prefer that. There you go, one gutter. Plasma cut. Could have done it with a grinder, but it took like a lot longer. But cut down a piece of 1 inch angle, and literally with a G-clamp wedged it in because it was tight in the middle. This thing had actually, with all the welding, it bowed inward. So pushed that in, pulled that out, welded it in, and I stitched it in. So I went in the middle first, then I went down here, then I went down there, then I went there, then I went there, until it was all done. Because I was worried about warping. So if I say this now, that's a reminder to myself later on. So when we put the sides on, this is my reminder to me, I got to fold them over, and then I can weld all the way around on the inside edge. And the reason for that is I've lost, I didn't really need to put the angle on there. Well, I did, because it strengthens it up for when I hammer it round. But yeah, I've gone a bit flat there. So it's done. It's about as far as I can take it in the shed. The gutter's on. I can't believe a Volkswagen Beetle bumper has actually made my roof line. That's quite amusing. So yeah, we've got to put angle behind here. We need to cut that out at a later date. I can't do it yet because I've got to measure up on the actual vehicle to where the shafts are going to sit, you know, the rails that are going across. I've also got to make another 4 more of them, which will probably get cut out of this stuff. I've got 1 more of these left that I can chop. So we'll run some angle iron or box steel, and then we'll literally weld that to the side in order to mimic what we've got to do for the outside edge. I'm looking forward to this. I really am actually looking forward to this. So that's it. That's all I can do to it in the shed. Monday. I normally start the videos on a Monday, but I've been busy over the weekend, as you've probably already noticed. So I'd say today, or this week, framing day, framing week, framing day, call it what you like. We're going to get the frames on. Can't get any skins on this week, lack of money, but we can, and there's a lot of framing to do anyway. I may have to go and get more steel as well. I'm not sure I've got enough. I thought I had, I don't think I have. So yeah, framing day. We are going to take that frame from the rear that we built in the shed. We're going to very gently place it on. We're going to place it into a position that I like, because I actually want it to lean forward a little bit more than what it is, and we're going to go from there really, and then we'll start putting in all the steels in place that we've got, and well, that's just shut up and get on with it, yeah. there you go. There's the first frame. This is the rear frame. That's now self-supporting. Sits exactly where I want it to sit. So I think it's sitting at the perfect angle, because those lines up the top there that the tin's got to go on should now fit straight onto that without having to do any cutting, I'm hoping. We'll have to align a lot of this here and there because everything's changed slightly. So the next thing I've got to do, which I won't film because it's boring, I've got to measure up now and work out where all the other existing frames are going to sit. We've also got to cut a line out there, which I've pre-marked, but that ain't the line, and that one up there and down. And once I've got those frames in, I'm then going to completely remove all, I hope, of that bulkhead. Oh, hang on, no, I've got to put some angles in down the bottom here as well, so we've got that to do. Then I can remove what's left of this bulkhead. Right, this brace I'm putting in is for the wheel arch, the upper part of the fiberglass that will sit underneath, and eventually I'll make a frame around that to hold it in. So, you know what I'm doing. Right, so far we have the upper stay for the top part of the base piece of metal. Angle will go along there, in and then up, and that'll be the first piece of wood to go in. Piece of angle will go in there, and then we'll cut that all out. Piece of angle in there, and we'll cut that plate off there and weld all the way down. Once we've trimmed it off properly, we've got one more piece to put in at the bottom, which I've as yet to figure out how we're doing that, because the curve on the door goes lower than the curve that we've got going on here, so that piece of steel at the bottom may have to come a little lower. But the problem is I can only get a 2 foot length. I mean, I'd love to go all the way down, but that's possibly going to mess me up. But I'll tell you what we'll do next is we'll take out that piece over there. I think take a little bit more roof away with the plasma cutter. That will then leave me with a decision to make to where that top piece of steel is going, because it is actually higher at the front than it is at the back. But we've also got to take into consideration the roof is supposed to be sweeping down, but it hasn't quite swept the way I was hoping. Bit of a nuisance. I haven't shown you much progress because I didn't want to bore you, but we've put an angle iron in down the bottom along with the bottom base plate. We've doubled up that one, so we've got 2 in there. I'll explain in a minute. We've got the first window frame wood, which is this. I say window frame, it's on a Morris Minor, that's where the window frame would be. The wood would go in, the runner would go into the wood, and then the glass would go in. I'm not doing that in that manner. Now, let me explain why I doubled up. I've now got I've got one more piece to put in along there. I'd like to get that one in tonight if I can, but if I can't, then I can't. But I want to run a piece of box from here up to there. Then I want to go in the shed with the plasma cutter and cut out some supports to go in the middle, because when I put the steel on, the moment I put a ratchet strap over it to get it to curve, it's going to push that steel inward. I'm trying to stop that, even by putting a temporary welding down the bottom there if I have to. that's it for the day. Running out of light, and I've got to make some noise, and I've got to throw some sparks about. I think that's probably best left till tomorrow. So tomorrow we will cut that out and weld that up against the post. We'll tidy that bit there up. We can just cut along there and then weld up, that's not an issue. Then we've got to cut along here and go down there, ready for the new tin. We need to chop that all out because we've got to tidy that all up. We've got to cut this so it goes down to an angle. With that yet to do. What else is there? Then there's the upper braces we've got to figure out, and then I can put inner angle up here, as you see done here, and then we'll get the plasma and cut that out so as the two pieces of wood that go in will amalgamate together. Same up that end. Once we've cut that out and welded, we've got to put some angle in there. That beam that goes across has got to have angle welded in. I might weld that in first. Once I've made the beam, I might just do the angle first and then do the rest, because the wood is going to sit in that frame and then the tin will get welded into that, or alley, whichever I end up using really. And that will be the first part of this done. Well, the roof beam is in, but we've just got a bit of a problem with warpage. All this metal is bent. It's not 100% straight. We can pull that back though. We can put a big long pole in there. I've got plenty of them lying around. And we can pry that straight. It's just a question of getting the metal to lose its memory in the position it's in, and we should be fine. So we've got to run an angle there, an angle down there. Then we need to measure that front mudguard to reference where the rear one's going, and then we've got those cross members to chuck in, which could be done today. I don't know yet. I would like to get that hydraulic pack removed and unbolt my speakers, shift those out of the way, and maybe clear some of the other rubbish we've got lying around. Now that they're exposed to the weather, it wouldn't be a bad thing to get them moved. Right. New day. I made a wheel arch last night in the shed. I've offered it in position roughly where I think it needs to sit. It is huge in comparison, but you've got to bear in mind that unlike that one, I as yet haven't cut that down. Also, it's got to be inserted right in, so there'll be less sticking out when I'm finished. Now there's two ways I'm doing. I could do this. The first one is I could push that right up against this beam here, and that whole area there will be cut out, which won't leave me with a lot of room inside, but it will save me having to trim if I don't really know what I'm doing. Trying to give you all the stats, and I ain't got a clue what I think I'm going to do. Okay, we'll play it that way instead. Sod it. I am going to bring it in as far as I can bring it. I want to try and get it as close to that area as I can possibly get, where that beam is. All of the spring area will be open to the elements, dirt, dust, rubbish, everything. We're going to mark off where this is sitting. I may have put that in the wrong place now looking at it, but hey ho. We'll lower this under and we'll mark, and we'll cut some steel to fit. We'll get the plasty out, and we'll take the speakers out, and we'll cut all the way through there, and we'll go right the way through. However, I am really close to my okay, this is about as far as I can take it now. I am aware that that beam is bent, and I am aware that that beam is bent. That one I can lift eventually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a big steel prop up there, ratchet that one up, and then once I've got that straight, beam across there and jack that one up. They do need to be straight. You've got to bear in mind that this is recycled steel. It was taken to the tip for a reason, and that now looks like that reason is because it was all bent up and no good, which I wasn't aware of when I got it. Not complaining, because it's half the price of what it would cost me brand new. I don't want to pay those prices at this point in time. I can't afford to, and we do need to get this finished, so it's just a case of I suck it up and get on with it, you know. So, subject to weather, and it's been like this all day. I'm a bit worried. If it pours down with rain tomorrow, which is Thursday, I think. So, what day is it? Thursday, yeah, Thursday. If it's pouring with rain, I can't do nothing. What I will do is make the video and upload it for Friday. I will spend extra time on it. I would also like to point out, if you're interested in knowing, as you know, YouTube is terrible in the way it's structured for some of the YouTubers that haven't got the numbers. I've got the numbers, but half of you won't subscribe. I've got about 30% more of you watching, but you won't subscribe. From my perspective, it's annoying. Got to be honest. You know, from your perspective, it's probably easier not to, because YouTube still allows you to watch without any problems. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed yet, as much as I hate to ask, please do, because that will help the channel grow, which is what I'm trying to do. I will go into it in a few months why I need the channel to grow. It's not for my benefit, well, it'll help, but it's for other people's benefit. I keep getting emails every so often that people want help. I'm not in a position where I can financially do that, so I'll go into that another time. However, I have also found that YouTube, when you send money through via YouTube, they nick quite a lot of it. Well, I say nick, that's the wrong word to use. They take quite a lot of the money. I haven't even got that function yet anyway. I can only earn off the adverts, and I need 1,000 subscribers to do that, and 1,000 watch hours, and I'm nowhere near 1,000 watch hours, and I'm about 500 and something short of all these subscribers that I need. So that left me with a dilemma. And then when I was watching somebody else's YouTube, two other people actually have been using a thing, Buy Me a Coffee app. So if you're interested in helping the channel, I will be very grateful, as much as I hate sounding like I'm begging, because that's what it is, isn't it, really? But the camera equipment is shot, and without the cameras I can't give you videos. I've already made it clear I'm not buying any more cameras for the time being, because if I do, that will wipe out my expenses for the projects that I'm doing, and I need to get these done. So if you want to support the channel, if you really want to, I'd be very grateful. You don't have to. I'm not asking you to. I'm just putting it out there that there is that option. If you want to, go onto the app. It's it'll be in the description, but I'm also going to be putting it into the main information page where the old PayPal button is. I think I might put that there somewhere. So yeah, if you fancy contributing, brilliant, thank you very much. If you don't, not a problem. I really don't mind. It would help, but I'm not going to sit there and say, please everybody, I'm dying and all that. No. That's not what this is about. So yeah, that's where we're at on the channel itself. You subscribers, thank you very much for subscribing. I greatly appreciate it. All you lot that haven't, well, you know what you got to do. You ain't got to do it. I'd be grateful if you did. That just helps me out later on in the forthcoming future. Anyway, back to the build. Right, so we've now got to do the other side. Now, I was going back on one of the other videos of this about 2.5, 3 years ago, and I think I now know why, because I did point this out in that video. that when I put the buck on, one side was sticking out further than the other, and I'm pretty sure I did put that on smack on. I'm suspecting a similar problem here, but because I'm putting wheel arches on, I can compensate for that, hopefully, and not too many people, I'm hoping, will notice. But I think it's this side went on wrong. That was the post that fell off on me, literally. It was rotten. So we've now got this side to do, so I've got to basically get rid of the rest of the metal that's in the way, which is all this lot, all the way up to there, along that roof line. I've got to get rid of these posts. Pump's got to go, speaker's got to go. Then we can start, and this is the other problem, I've got to measure as well to make sure both sides are the same length. That ain't going to be easy because I need to pick a permanent spot off the chassis to do that. So yeah, that's another job we've got coming up. There's the inside view of this as well. So lots of room. If I open this door, you'll kind of get where this is going. It's sort of about the same size as a regular Land Rover back, you know, a 110 or something. I mean, this is 100 inch. I think this is a 100 inch wheel plan on this. But I reckon lengthwise we won't be far short of a 110 Landy. My mate was saying to me about the overhang was going to be horrific and it wouldn't look right. Well, I'll be honest, I wanted to move that wheel further back, but I think the way I got it set up, and bearing in mind also I've got some aluminium plating to make the bottom of that rear mudguard, which is why I didn't make them in the shed, because I've got something going on in my head. I know these mudguards are going to get smashed. I'm fully aware of it. Depending on where I go off-road, and they'll probably get slapped and broke. So I am thinking about having a hunt around, see if I can find some wheel spats that will match up to that shape. Maybe we can cut those fiberglass ends off on both mudguards and put some wheel spats on there as the outside edges. But I can't, top of my head, think what will do it. And what's ruined the idea for me is this one here, this curve there. If that was straight, Jeep would have done that very easily. CJ Jeep or whatever the heck they call them. But that's kind of mucked it up a bit. Never mind. We'll see what we can turn up, and if that don't work, maybe we can make something out of rubber. There must be a way of doing it. I know you can mix up polyurethane, make molds with that. So I don't see why you can't make a mudguard with polyurethane using the molds I've got in the shed. Surely that's possible. Fiberglass up one of these first, put a load of polyurethane in, and then squash this down on top to get both sides smooth, and then peel off, and hopefully you'll be left with a piece that you can bolt on. That's kind of where my head's going with it, but I don't know if I can pull it off. Anyway, morning Thursday. I have been working on this non-stop for about 2 weeks, roughly. I mean, we started with the internal frame. We got that put together pretty quickly, all things considered. And then I made a basic frame for the doors. Then that went in the shed this weekend gone, so we improved on that, gave it a decent sort of roof line, and then we literally picked everything up Monday morning and we started doing all the box steel work for the sides. I've now got to do the other side. Here's my issue. My damn back is in agony. I've been doing this flat out for 2 weeks and I need a couple of days off. Problem is if I put tools down today, it won't be a couple of days, it'll be 4 days, because I don't want to do anything over the weekend noise wise down this end of the garden. Wouldn't be fair, would it? So I'm going to have 4 days off, give my back a chance to recoup, because it's in absolute agony. also gives me an opportunity now just to stare at this for 4 days if the weather stays good, and try and figure out other things and other ways and other routes to get it the way I want it. That bar at the top may have to be cut off because it's just bent and I can't see a way of straightening it successfully. That one ain't great, but I might be able to get a high lift jack on the wheel and bounce that back up a little bit, but it may upset everything else. But you know, it is what it is, and we'll see where we go with it. I'm not going to say it won't work, I don't know. Lessons learnt. Right, lessons learnt so far. Well, we're not going to put any angle in like we did down here, nor are we putting any up there before the arch goes in, because it's an awful waste of steel. The piece of box, I had to cut this piece out here because I got this frame worked out from this side, but it didn't fit this side. I had to spin it around and it all went Pete Tong on me. So a little more care and attention on the next mudguard that goes on. That way, if we don't put any angle in there, I can reuse the box steel, because we're getting a little low now. So the strengtheners can go in last. We don't need to put them in any time before. So once that mudguard's been cut, we can put them in after. And then we can work out from there what is straight and what is not. That would be the sensible thing. So between now and Monday, I will probably strip off the last of that stuff that's over there, but I'm not really going to pay much more attention to it. I'll get that speaker out, we're going to move them, probably cut the wires actually and take them indoors out of the way, so I would like to put them back in here. And there ain't much more I can say or do about anything really. I'll have a look at the wood that came off this tipper, see if there's a small chance, I don't know where we put it, down there, see if there is a small chance that will fit. I doubt it. So I would like to put some wood in there so I've got somewhere to stand while I do all the beams on the roof, which is the other thing. I can't really do that at the moment, but that roof's got to come off. So yeah, there's still loads to do. I'm flat out exhausted, and I think we're going to put tools down and we'll pick it up Monday, providing the weather doesn't take a turn for the worst. And I am taking a hell of a gamble, because at the moment the weather is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's almost t-shirt weather, and I ain't kidding, it's really warm. Must be about 11-12 degrees out here at the moment. It's really warm, and I'm wasting valuable weather conditions that could get this done quicker. But if I carry on the way I am, my back's going to get screwed up even more. I could be laid up for a good couple of weeks and you won't get any videos. So with that in mind, I'm going to say thank you very much. Thank you very much for your likes, your views and your comments. Yeah, this is turning into a bit of a hard one, but it'll get there. So with that, I'm going to clear off and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.